Picture this. The President of the United States sits down for a Fox News interview and declares, without hesitation, that America is crushing China in the AI race. So far ahead, he says, that even President Xi Jinping was stunned when he heard the numbers. That's a bold claim from a sitting president, made just before a historic trip to Beijing. But just weeks before that interview aired, something happened behind closed doors in Washington that tells a very different story. A story about the most advanced AI model ever built. One so powerful its own creators were afraid to release it. A story about the cybersecurity scare that reached the highest levels of the US government. And a story about how a single sudden decision to cut off public access to that model may have handed China exactly the kind of advantage America was trying to prevent. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some of the sharpest minds in tech are calling this one of the most self-defeating moves in the history of the AI race, and why the real battle for AI dominance might not be about who builds the smartest model at all. On Fox News' special report in early May 2026, Donald Trump announced that the United States held a massive lead in artificial intelligence. Speaking just before his first Beijing summit of his second term, Trump claimed that Chinese President Xi Jinping was visibly surprised by the scale of the American advantage. This claim rests on a real structural foundation. United States developers benefit from easier access to cutting-edge microchips. Yet, this hardware lead does not guarantee a total strategic victory. While American labs focus on building the single most powerful frontier model, Chinese competitors are pursuing a different goal. They are prioritizing global market reach, ecosystem scale, and low-cost usability. The true strategic gap is narrower than the political soundbites suggest, as the race shifts from raw computing power to market ubiquity. In this environment, a lead in hardware access does not automatically translate into a lasting geopolitical triumph. On April 7, 2026, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell called an urgent, closed-door meeting at the Treasury Department. In the room were the chief executives of Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs. The briefing focused on a severe risk discovered in Anthropic's unreleased Claude Mythos preview. This system possessed an ability to autonomously locate zero-day software flaws and generate operational exploit code. The threat was not a simple software bug. It directly jeopardized the plumbing of global finance. Trillion-dollar settlement systems, credit clearing houses, mortgage processing pipelines, and daily payroll networks were suddenly exposed. While politicians projected absolute confidence in American dominance, the nation's financial gatekeepers were treating the most powerful AI ever built as a systemic danger to the domestic economy. On April 7, 2026, Anthropic published a 244-page technical report titled Claude Mythos Preview Alignment Risk Update. The company described the system as its most capable and efficient model yet, representing a major technological leap over Claude Opus 4.6. But behind the performance benchmarks lay a troubling reality. Anthropic judged Mythos Preview too effective at autonomously breaching fortified digital networks to allow an unrestricted public release. To manage this threat, engineers built a two-track containment architecture. Under Project Glasswing, nearly 200 vetted security and critical infrastructure institutions received restricted access to stress test defenses. For the public, the company deployed a tiered safety filter system. High-risk queries involving cybersecurity, biology, or chemistry were automatically intercepted and routed to Claude Opus 4.8, a weaker fallback layer. The filtered public-facing version was released as Claude Fable 5, acting as the guarded public face of this powerful new class. On June 9, 2026, Anthropic sent the first beta invitations for Claude Fable 5. 2 days later, on June 11th, the model opened to the public as the first accessible Mythos-class system. Within 24 hours, the rollout collapsed. Amazon security researchers discovered a vulnerability that bypassed the safety filters, allowing users to access the raw power of Mythos instead of the weaker Opus fallback layer. Amazon Chief Executive Officer Andy Jassy immediately flagged the issue directly to the White House, By Friday morning, the threat escalated to the highest levels of the administration. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, National Cyber Director Sean Cairncross, and Chief of Staff Susie Wiles convened an emergency meeting. They called Anthropic Chief Executive Officer Dario Amodei, demanding he pull both Fable 5 and Mythos 5 within 90 minutes. Amodei refused, arguing the vulnerability was not severe enough to break the safety layer. In response, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick issued an emergency export control order. The rules banned access for anyone outside the United States and any foreign national inside the country, including Anthropic's own non-American engineers. Lacking the technical ability to verify user nationality in real time, Anthropic had only one option. Just 3 days after its public release, the company pulled both systems from the global market, shutting off access even inside the United States. The sudden global blackout directed international backlash away from Anthropic and straight toward Washington. To foreign allies, the disruption exposed the vulnerability of depending on American technology. European Commission official Thomas Regnier called the unilateral decision discriminatory, urging immediate European independence. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney warned against relying on a small group of U.S. suppliers, while former French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe argued that foreign-controlled AI could be switched off like electricity. In London, a member of Parliament noted that British hospitals and researchers saw their systems vanish overnight. This vulnerability catalyzed the demand for sovereign AI, systems managed entirely within domestic borders, secure from foreign intervention. The driving force behind these export controls was keeping Mythos-class systems away from Beijing. Semaphore reported that officials suspected a China-linked entity had already tried to access Mythos, risking direct compromise and reverse engineering through distillation. But this intervention ignored highly capable Chinese competitors, DeepSeek V4 Pro, Zhipu's GLM, Moonshot's Kimi, Minimax, and Alibaba's Qwen, some of which already beat American models on key benchmarks. In May, German security official Claudia Plattner warned that several Chinese firms had quietly stopped public updates to build private, next-generation systems. She specifically flagged Alibaba as nearing Mythos-level cyber-offensive capability, making the American blackout an advertisement for China's resilient alternatives. Many leading Chinese models are open-weight, allowing developers to download the software and run it on private servers, shielding operations from sudden foreign shutdowns. The financial gap is stark. DeepSeek V4 Pro costs roughly 87 cents per million tokens, while Claude Fable 5 costs $50 per million tokens, a 60-fold price difference. For global deployments, these economics outweigh marginal gains in raw capability. Airbnb uses Alibaba's Qwen for customer service, while the United Kingdom government has integrated the Chinese model into select operations. This shift reflects a broader market transition predicted by Coinbase Chief Executive Officer Brian Armstrong, who estimated that within 18 months, 80% of enterprise usage will shift to these cheaper, highly accessible systems. SentinelOne Chief Product Officer Alex Stamos told The Verge that Beijing was likely watching and laughing as the United States hamstrung one of its own most promising companies, calling the intervention incredibly foolish. This self-inflicted disruption exposed a fundamental misunderstanding of the modern AI race. As Fortune argued on June 16th, China's real strategic strength does not depend on winning a race to build a single crown jewel model. Instead, it lies in spreading its systems throughout the global economy via a flexible, open ecosystem. The Anthropic episode revealed that for developers and enterprises worldwide, dependable, uninterrupted access is far more critical than possessing marginal gains in peak capability. By prioritizing absolute control over global usability, Washington created a vacuum that reliable, unrestricted alternatives are perfectly positioned to fill. By prioritizing control over global availability, Washington may have handed Beijing the ultimate strategic gift: trust. Have you used both American and Chinese AI models? Compare their quality, speed, and cost in the comments. Subscribe for more investigative documentaries.